Hi, today as part of our Business Spotlight program, I'm with Tadhg Guiry. He's the founder of Evolve Marketing. So over to you, Tadhg. What is it you do and for how long have you been doing it?
Cheers, Kevin. Yeah, so in 2018, I went out on my own for the first time and started a small agency consultancy. I did that for a year, built up a very small and modest client base. And after 12 months, I said, you know what, it's a lonely journey by yourself. And I partnered with my now business partner, Rory. So Rory had a small consultancy agency, similar business to myself at the time, serving a different market. So we joined together in the tail end of 2019. And since then, we've ran and owned one or two different digital agencies. So I guess the business that I put my face to and spend most of my day to day on is Evolve Marketing. So we're a digital agency. We specialize within professional services. Our background was, or at least when we started, was just within the legal space. But since then, we've spanned out across, all of the rest of the professional services. And in essence, what we do is we help to grow their firm and their brand online.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's great. And what you kind of touched it a bit, but what do you attribute your growth to?
Yeah, so as I said, we when we joined together, myself and Roy, was probably like the start properly of the business journey. And 5 months, 4 months after that was the start of COVID. And not that we had a huge business at that point. Probably had 10 or so clients between us. We probably lost half of them overnight. And again, it was at the time obviously sort of heart-wrenching. Felt like whatever we'd built was starting to crumble before our feet. But fairly quickly, we realized, we didn't even have solid foundations in the business. We hadn't really solidified our offering. We had a really, really small team, and the only way was up really from then. So from that moment, and pretty much since then, I think we've been, really action oriented, fairly practical, resourceful in what we've had. The business was started by us both putting in €1,000 each, so we never needed or wanted for anything really, and so we could build it that way, and that really allowed us, I think, to go from our journey from 0 to 1, which I feel we've done now, and sort of the next step is building it out for probably a business that lasts without us, that has better systems, SOPs, processes, and that's currently what we're in the process of.
Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. And so it's getting out there and just connecting with your clients. I mean, how do they come and how do you get in contact with them? Because your team is quite large. I'm just looking at your website. Yeah.
Yeah, it's come from all ways really. Like, so we we started in a business and in a sector that in reality we didn't have a huge amount of a network in. We weren't rolling over clients from a past job. Neither of us had worked at an agency in the past.
Hmm.
I worked in a small startup in Austin, Texas. He had done something similar. So when we came on, we really were starting from ground zero. So it sort of came from elbow grease and outbound, and eventually you get stuff from referrals, or you might start to build a small bit of a outbound, but it's there was no real magic secrets of how we did it. It was just sort of trying to like really get an understanding of the market first, if we were going after. I'd always done marketing and been interested in small business, so that bit of it was fine. It was the element of, okay, as opposed to maybe having this generic service offering and offering it to all people, getting an understanding of, I'd worked in an insurance company as an intern when I was a lot younger, and I had a bit of an understanding of certain nuances within the legal sector, and so that was able to build up. Okay, it's a professional service. How they sell their offering depending on the service area, and I could just start to build up this small understanding at the time, and obviously that's building, grown over time since then, and as the business grew, we recognized that a lot of these other professional services have similar issues, troubles, and maybe they have traditional ways of doing things, and that the same campaigns or at least approaches to how we would grow one firm would relate to other businesses as well. So yeah, that's some of it.
So you kind of started in a niche and then expanded out from there to similar type businesses, sort of professional services businesses, and you've been helping them to grow their brand and it, but a lot of elbow grease involved. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, a bit of it, like we run our own ads. We've done referral programs. So I think as a small business owner, you have to do a bit of everything, and of course listen to what's worked over time. Obviously, as we've grown as well, you have to gauge your own capacity a bit more and learn from the pro and the positive and the negative client experiences, of which every business owner has, of course. So trying to get an understanding better of where your own skills lie individually, but also as a business, to know who you can serve easier, and where your own competence as a business can just sort of do it effortlessly, whereas maybe some clients and some industries, the team skill set, it might feel like you're swimming against the tide a small bit more. So having that understanding, which only comes with time and practice, and running in our game, I guess, as many campaigns as you can.
Fantastic. Okay, that's brilliant. And this is one I don't know if you had a long enough time at it yet, but if you had to start from square one in business, what would you do differently?
Yeah, it's probably a typical thing in an interview like this that say people say, but hiring experts quicker. So like I think earlier on we understood the like power of delegation, and if we like I'm an okay designer, but by no means great. Like so what I wasn't doing ever, let's say client designs or web design. So we understood it at maybe a task level and like to do items and delegation from that perspective, but didn't took a longer, I'd say, period to understand that, like, the level of seniority you need in the business to take a weight off your shoulders, and while bringing people in to do tasks is great, either, in-house or externally, and that will, lift some of the burden. You really only feel that burden lifted as a business owner if someone's coming in and taking responsibility off you, if they're client facing or if they're, assisting on a sales process, if they're assisting from a revenue retention perspective or acquisition. And to be honest, we've only really learned that lesson over the last year or two, really, and we'll probably continue to learn it. So that's been probably the biggest learning for me, I'd say, and for Rory, I can speak for him as well.
Good man. Okay, that's great. Yeah, and you're right. It is a common theme. Everyone I ask this question of, and including myself, when I was starting out, whenever, as we were saying 20 years ago, that was the first advice I got from the founder there, Brad Sugars. First thing you need to do is hire somebody in to do on this telemarketing as it was back then. And I didn't. And after a while, then I realized I should have. But absolutely, it's very common coming through in all of these interviews. Um, and again, maybe just going as an employer, you've grown as an employer. What are your biggest learnings? What have they been as an employer since you began your business?
Yeah, 100%. So we've, I think, about 14 on the team at the moment. People spread it all over the world. We were Irish HQ business up until January 2023. So we've gone remote first since then. So I'm based in Dublin. The rest of the team are all over the world, from New York, Dubai, Cape Town, India as well, and a good few in Ireland. So we're spread everywhere, and so that has been obviously in and of itself going remote, its own change, and it's an ongoing process of getting the mix of they're not wanting to micromanage, but also setting expectations, clarity on roles and responsibilities, and that's definitely an ever learning process. I guess my mindset to maybe management, or again, since the business has started to grow, is number one, treat people like adults. So I think while I didn't have I'd worked in 20 other jobs or businesses before starting up my own, I had experiences of learning from afar, of both the good and the bad, and especially going remote, especially having someone join a really small startup where it is uncertain, having that element of treat people like adults, and that comes, I think, on both sides of it. It comes with like the ownership of someone owning their role, because we're a small team, we're a growing team, we're all trying to swim in the same direction, as I've said. But it also comes with, like, we're remote. You don't have to, if you're popping out for a coffee, if you're doing a school run, if you're doing these other things that, are part of life, you don't have to be telling your school teacher. And again, I haven't huge other experiences of working in organizations where maybe it has been that. And I do think, great, it has changed culturally for the most part. But, I have a recognition of how I'd like to be treated as an employee. And again, it's a culture we're trying to build over time. And it's never going to be perfect. It's never a finished article, but it's something, I guess, as a value that I hold quite strong.
Fantastic. Yeah, because again, remote, as we know, particularly since COVID, the whole remote thing is coming in, and the whole work-life balance, etc., as you say, getting more flexible, is certainly looks like the way forward. So yeah, you look to be on the cutting edge there, which is great. The other one then, I suppose, starting up a business, as you say, is there's all sorts of things going on. How do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
Yeah, it's probably it's more difficult, I feel, at the start, because it takes up every moment of probably space in your head. I think it has become easier when you have a team, so there's no doubt about that. And it has become easier when you have a bit more solid grounds in terms of consistent paying clients, of which you're delivering a good service for, of a bit more predictability in your pipeline and in deals and referrals network. So that's definitely a positive. It doesn't mean, obviously, you still don't think about it on the weekends and evenings and all the rest, but it does give you that, at least, okay, you can think beyond the next month or so, which is great. But outside of that, like probably don't set that much boundaries on myself work wise during the week. Because we're a remote team, you wake up, and again, the pro and the con of remote living or remote working even is Slack, WhatsApps, emails, like they're sort of never ending throughout the weekend. While again, my expectation of someone is not to come back to me at all times, but if someone is starting their workday at 10, I don't tell them, no, you can't you can't email or Slack or WhatsApp me until it hits 9 o'clock my time. It's just not very practical. So during the week, and especially at the start of the week, it is tough. You sort of work most waking hours, I guess, for the most part. And again, I don't have kids at the moment, so I have I guess an awareness and an appreciation that I can do stuff like that a bit more. And I guess from day one, I've always been a bit more maybe strict on the weekends, and with my partner or time with that, I'd be relatively conscious of not being on the phone or on the laptop with her. So again, it's sort of that cut off as the week gets later and as your brain becomes a bit more fried. I do try and set, and I think I'm relatively good at setting that cut off point, especially on the weekends, because early on, like, there's always something to do, and at the start, if your excuse for doing something or working until 2 a.m. one night, or like, different if there's a deadline, but working until 2 a.m. or working on a Saturday and Sunday because there's something to do, well, I mean, it's a race to the bottom then, because there's always something to do as a business owner. And so having that appreciation that you're not always going to complete everything on your list, you're going to be more critical of things you didn't get to do, and just being okay with that. Again, deadlines aside and stuff like that aside, but having some bit of a cutoff, I think, is really important. Otherwise, again, I want to be doing this for the rest of my days, and so longevity is more important than really killing yourself in the short term.
Yeah, well, I'd be all for that. Yeah, and again, most business owners tend to be time poor, small business owners. And yes, when you're starting off, I suppose the analogy we use is like a plane taking off. Everything is shuddering and roaring to get up, but hopefully you get up to the 30,000 feet and be able to at least have that goal in mind that you're going to be doing a bit more cruising. And I know it's something that we do quite a bit of work with people, and just finding what are the techniques and things you can employ. But you're absolutely right. Getting the right people in the place, doing the right things at the right time on the systems, is a huge step forward in that direction. Which is great. And again, you've touched on it again, but what qualities do you look for in your employees, and how do you foster a positive and productive work environment?
Yeah, I was doing a really small talk in DCU a week or two ago, and it was a similar question came up around employability, and like the two, I guess, not hard skills or traits that you look for, or that jump out as much as anything else, are like curiosity and initiative, and it's hard to put your finger on that. It's definitely hard to do it in an interview process as well, especially where it might be a very strict task or interview, or they're boring enough questions that you're trying to stand out on, and that's difficult, and you're only going to really know that both as an employee and as an employer, I think, upon working with someone. Like, going the extra mile is sort of a cliche in that, but like, what does it mean? I guess for me it's like acting like an owner within the business, and an owner within the business, you don't have to make every decision, you don't have to be pretending to be something you're not, but for the parts of the business you have a role in, that that's your part of the business. You own that, and it might be just doing the social media post, and not to say just, but it might be another element of it. You could be the bookkeeper, but it's like thinking critically of that, thinking of the process of which you could improve, thinking of stuff that is out of the day-to-day of the tasks, and that's difficult because we all have busy lives, we all have stuff we need to do, but I think stuff like that just really jumps off the page and jumps off your day-to-day working with colleagues, really. Like a term I loved, and it's from Naval, I think he's the founder of Angel List, but it's always stuck with me, is like the concept of the principal agent problem, and how can you align incentives of everyone on your team, both at leadership level, at junior level, because myself and Rory, we own the business 50-50. We don't ever have to have a question of where our incentives lie or where our alignment is and stuff, and we both know to think on behalf of the business. And again, a quote he said, or something around the lines of, was like, act like an owner and you'll become one. And I think that's such a good way to view business, if that's your ambition, obviously. Not that it has to be everyone's, but act like an owner, you'll grow in the responsibilities you can do, the people you have around you. If you want to move on to bigger and better things as well, that's always fine, if you don't want to stay in small business. But for me, that's sort of all warped in curiosity, that initiative, and I think it's a good frame of mind, I think, to be in as an employee.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the old saying, isn't it? Hire for attitude and train for skills sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Great stuff. Okay. And then just to finish up, I suppose, it's a bit more general question, but what are some of the common misconceptions about running a business and how do you address them?
It's a hard one. Like there's probably a lot, but none that jump out overly. One that I think is probably a misconception is definitely before people start is around like, that you can sort of plan your way to success off the bat, and like, and again, I'm all for planning and I love a whiteboard session, but simply sometimes that can feel like the thing. You make these 3-year plans and 5-year plans, and myself and Rory made a business plan on the way back from a long flight, and again, it does set a bit of a like a vision and so on, but there was a global pandemic a few months later, like that wasn't in the plan. So it's like that's fine, I think, and it will give you that starting point, but like that's not the thing. The thing might be for you, 50 emails, it might be 20 sales calls, whatever type of business you're running. And again, just to have that recognition that your best laid plans and all of that type of thing. So for me, I think planning is great. And it's something we follow and fail up as well, even in the life cycle of the business, which is, thinking too long and not in the short term of stuff, because, you might have 20 different plans and, we've great ambitions outside of what we're currently doing as well. But can you have a control or impact on that like today or in the next week or two? Probably not. And what are some of the smaller numbers or metrics or people you need that you can have a bigger impact on in the short term? So around planning would be, while it's important, it's definitely a smaller percentage of, I think, as you progress through your business and having that success.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I know. And I'm just talking to some people recently. The one that stuck with me is the important thing about a plan is not to get it perfect. It's just to get it started, because you'll adjust that plan as you say, and then pandemic hits you or a war in Europe or God knows what, and you have to adjust your plan as you go forward. So it's rather than getting it perfect, it's get it started and then see how you need to adjust it going forward, which is the thing I do a lot with my clients. So listen, Tadhg, it's been great talking to you today. There's some great insights for our viewers that be able to have a look at and talk about. And we'll be including your email address and that, our contact details from your website at the end of this interview. So listen, great talking to you, and thanks again for your time.
Cheers, Kevin. Appreciate it.